CLDSA is an organization that promotes, records, and supports long-distance swimming in the Cape. Long distance being swims greater than 7.4 kilometers. It is the biggest record-keeping body in Africa, which is very exciting. The organization is over 50 years old, and our records include over 4,800 successful swims. A big thank you to all of you for attending tonight, and also a special welcome to those joining us from overseas. There are quite a few. We are a diverse audience of members and non-members here. For those who aren't members, an annual membership costs 400 Rand and includes many benefits, including complimentary tickets to these cold water caper talks and the formal recognition of your long distance open water swims. You can sign up on our website, which is www.cldsa.co.za, to receive more information on this. And I see Monene has already added the link to the chat, so you can check that link out if you're interested. I would also like to announce that we have a set date for our annual general meeting, which will be taking place on the 11th of September at the Cape Royal Yacht Club in Cape Town. Please save this date so long, but we will also be sending out invites in the next few weeks. Monene will also post the link in the chat, so please have a look at that. Before welcoming our special guest, I would like to run us through a few logistics. The talk will be 30 minutes long, and we will leave about 15 minutes for any questions you might have. Please use the chat on Zoom to send us any questions. You can send them throughout the talk, and we will collect them. And we will then be selecting some of your questions to answer at the end of the talk. I forgot to introduce myself. I am Anya Rageller, part of the CLDSA committee. And yeah, I'll be your host for tonight. So tonight we have a very special guest. Katherine Persson is a seasoned South African long-distance open water swimmer with impressive achievements. I'll be running you through those achievements in a minute. She works full-time in a very demanding job and is married and has 2 children. I have prepared some pictures for you to have a look at while I run you through all her swims that she's achieved so far. Monene, if you could please put those up for us, then we can have a look at that. So, Kat has completed many swims. I will start by running you through the swims between 8 and 12 kilometers, or 7.5 and 8 and 12 kilometers. She's completed 10 Robben Island crossings. Those are single crossings, 1 double crossing, a Robben Island to Melkbos, Milnerton Lighthouse to Big Bay, which is just over 10 kilometers, a Preokstal to Langebaan. Then she's also completed 5 long Langebaan Express swims, which are 12 kilometers long, Fishhook to Millers Point, which is 11 kilometers, Hout Bay to Sandy Bay, 10 kilometers. Kommetjie to Hout Bay, she's done twice, which is another 10-kilometer swim. And Simonstown to Muizenberg, another 10 kilometers. And she's done 3 traditional Cape Point swims. I'm saying traditional because she's just 2 weeks ago did the Dias Beach to Millers Point swim, which is a new route, which is a 16-kilometer swim. The next few swims are all longer than 16 kilometers. She's done a double Preekstoel, which is a 24-kilometer swim, Robben Island to Dussen Island in a relay format, 52.5 kilometers. She's done a solo across False Bay both ways, west to east and east to west. She's done a relay across False Bay and a double relay, which is 66 kilometers. One of her more recent other swims is Miller's Point to Fishhook and back to Miller's Point, 21 kilometers. And yeah, the across the False Bay east to west, I had already mentioned. She also completed, you might have seen in the pictures as well, the English Channel in 2022 and the 20 Bridges Manhattan Swim in 2023, which involves circumnavigating Manhattan Island in New York. This is a 45.9-kilometer swim. She's currently also training for the North Channel Swim, which is very exciting. This is a 34.5-kilometer swim, crossing the channel between Northern Ireland and Scotland. It's considered one of the toughest long-distance swims in the world and is included in the Ocean 7 series of swims. Great. Monene, you're welcome to close the slideshow. And then I would like to welcome Kat. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let us get
Thank
her.
you, Anya.
Excellent.
That
It
was
is
quite
so
a
lovely to have you.
comprehensive swim CV.
Monene, are you able to pin us? Just let me see if I can pin Kat as well.
You guys are pinned on my side, so both of you.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, excellent. Great. I cannot wait to explore and learn about your swim preparation, fitness strategies, technique tips, and the importance of goal setting. Those are the themes for tonight for our cold water capers. Maybe we can just start off by you telling us how you got into open water swimming.
Yeah, thanks, Anya, and thanks to everybody for joining. I can see some familiar faces on the list there, but also some new faces. So looking forward to sharing some of my journey with you all tonight. I got into swimming about, I guess it's about 9 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. And I actually didn't come from a swimming background. I didn't grow up swimming like a lot of the South African kids do these days. I got into swimming late in life. It actually happened because I went to the local Virgin Active gym, and there's a swim coach there who's really chatty and friendly. And he convinced me to join a local squad, much to my horror, because I didn't think I was a swimmer. I didn't know how to do any other stroke apart from front crawl, but he convinced me to join and give it a go. And I actually met some of my like long-standing swim friends in that group, and they introduced me to open water swimming. So in the beginning days, we used to go to Fishhook Beach and we used to swim inside the shark nets because we were super concerned about sharks and safety, and it all had to be very cautious. And then we upgraded to swim at Simonstown Long Beach, but only up and down the beach in about this much water because we were so scared of the sharks. And my big goal at the time was I wanted to do a Clifton Mile. I thought this is a really big challenge. I took myself off to buy a wetsuit, a coral wetsuit in Salt River. And eventually, after training towards that goal, I did a Clifton Mile. I was terrified of the cold. I was terrified of kelp. I was terrified of being in the ocean on the Atlantic side. But I conquered that fear and then went on to do my first Robben Island, which was back in 2018. And the rest from there is kind of history, I guess, is what people say. Things escalated pretty quickly from the first few Robben Islands. I was lucky enough to join a Cape Point swim, and I met a bunch of the famous swimmers in Cape Town, and they started planting seeds about other swims, and yeah, things went big from there. So I came from, yeah, not a swimming background, but I'd always enjoyed being in the water, always had enjoyed doing sport. Yeah, and then somehow found a place where sport that I really enjoy and a community that I really love being part of.
Great. I love this. Thank you for sharing this with us. Let's look at how you prepare for swims. What does your general swim preparation look like in the lead up to a swim? Sort of from training to nutrition, mental prep, and anything else that's part of your routine.
So the people on the call who know me will know that I'm a planner. I like a plan and preferably a spreadsheet with color coding and things like that. Um, so the number one part of preparing for a swim for me is to have a plan. Like if you're going to work towards something, you need to work out what you need to do, maybe speak to people and get advice on how to prepare. And setting out that plan, I think, is an important part of it. Obviously, the physical part of training for a swim is pretty obvious. If you want to do a swim which is longer than what you're used to, or you're not used to swimming in open water, you need to prepare your body to be able to do that and maybe start picking up the mileage and doing longer swims. So a lot of people focus on the physical aspects of swimming. So that's number two on the list. Number three on the list, which not all people know if you've not done longer swims, is nutrition is really important, especially when you're swimming in open water, because if it's cold, your body burns a lot more energy. So you need to keep giving yourself fuel. I've seen people arrive at swims with a sausage sandwich as their nutrition plan, which is not it's not for everybody. You can find what feed works for you, but most people drink a multi-dextrin, like a carbohydrate drink as their feed. You've got to get that right. Really, if you're going to be doing a swim of longer than probably an hour in open water. So nutrition is number three. Number four, which is something that I'm really starting to explore now, is the mental preparation side of a swim. Because particularly with these long swims, knowing how to manage your mind and where your mind wanders to and having a strategy around being mentally prepared, I think is really important and overlooked by many swimmers. So that's something new to me, kind of being more intentional about mental preparation. Yeah, and then number five, which is probably one of the most important things, is making sure that you've got the right support team around you. So for long swims, that might mean having a boat and a crew. I see Derek Fraser on the line here tonight. He's normally part of my big crazy plans, but also your family, your colleagues, your kids, your friends, your swimming buddies. Maybe you have a coach, all these people around you that go on this journey with you and form part of the process of getting ready for a swim. All those people you have coffee with after a swim when you complain about being tired of training. It's all part of your important support team.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think this gives us a great sense of the bigger picture. I'd love to focus a bit more specifically on building fitness. And I also see that there's a question in the chat about that as well. When it comes to building your fitness needed for a big swim, what does that process look like for you?
So I've learned over the years actually that going all guns blazing, once you've decided on a challenge, it doesn't work for me. I'm quite cautious about not getting injured. So my focus is really on steady and consistent training. It doesn't always work out like that. Like life gets in the way and things happen. But generally, I find I get much better results if I train probably a little bit less than some people, but consistently, and just build things up over time. So when I start a training plan for a new goal, I start off quite slowly and modestly, and I build up the volume over time, and just give my body time to adapt and time to get used to swimming big distances. Obviously, by the end of the training, I can be doing a lot in a week, but I don't want to start out like that at the beginning and end up getting injured. So slow and steady wins the race. Well, not wins the race, but wins the training block.
You also mentioned something when we were preparing for this chat that you said consistency leads to confidence, and I really loved that saying, and I think that's also part of the training. Um, with your fitness approach in mind, it's interesting to consider what a typical training week actually looks like. You recently successfully completed your second solo swim across False Bay, and are currently in the middle of training for the North Channel swim. Can you give us an idea of your weekly training routine in the lead up? Roughly how many hours you're spending in the water each week, and how's that split up? I think that would be really interesting for all of us to know, pool versus open water sessions, and yeah, how you split those up.
So everybody's training is different, and it has to fit around your life and what you're planning to do. Um, for me, training it normally comes third. First of all, I've got to make sure that my kids are okay and they get to school, and I need to keep my job so that I can fund these swims. So my training normally fits around, and I do my swimming either early in the morning or in the evening after work, and then bigger swims at the weekend. So at the moment, I'm heading into my last couple of months of training for this North Channel swim. So I'm aiming to get 30 kilometers or more of training in each week. So that's around 10 hours of swimming. I split that into anywhere between 5 and 7 swims in a week. At the peak of that block, I'll be trying to get probably 45 or 50 kilometers a week in. So sometimes it's about kind of getting the kilometers in here and there and whenever I can. Um, that is a mix. I don't just swim. I heard one lady say that you can't just swim and swim and swim, that you need to focus on breaking your swim into a mixture of long, slow, steady swimming, but also do some endurance swimming and some interval training, which keeps you strong and keeps your pace and your fitness up. So I split it about 80% of my swimming is slow and steady and long swims, and about 20% is the harder stuff, the faster stuff, which I absolutely hate doing, but I know it's really good for me. So the 100-meter intervals, 200 meters, even 50s and 25s if somebody's in the pool and can force me to do it. And I think that also helps to break things up and make it interesting. I swim in the open water kind of whenever I can, really, but I make sure that if the conditions are bad in the ocean, I don't skip a swim. I'll get in the pool and swim there instead. Most of my swimming at the moment is in the pool, and I do my long swims at the open water at the weekend and try to swim in good conditions, bad conditions, whatever the ocean throws at me within the realms of safety so that I can be prepared for pretty much anything. Yeah, and the one thing that I think is quite important is I do a lot of training on my own, and that's kind of intentional because I want to get used to swimming on my own and being in my own headspace. But I also really enjoy the swims when my buddies come and swim alongside friends in the ocean and basically just swim for fun and have a good time. Because otherwise, if it's just training, 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 it can mentally get too much. You need those fun swims when you just mess around with your mates to keep it fun along the way.
Yeah, swimming in community definitely makes a big difference. And alongside your training, I've definitely picked up that your stroke really stands out. You have the most beautiful and elegant stroke. How did you develop it? Was it something that you came naturally, or did you spend time consciously refining it? Yeah, talk us through that.
I think part of it is natural. I can paddle a surfboard pretty fast. But the rest of it, to be honest, is hard work and dedication to it. Uh, in the early days when I started doing Robben Island swims and things, I started to get sore shoulders, like crunchy shoulders. So I went to a biokineticist who recommended a swim coach for swim analysis, and I did a lot of work on technique then because I didn't want to get injured and then have problems. So even now, I still do 2 gym sessions a week. I do my strength sessions to keep my back strong and my shoulders in the right position. Um, Sarah Ferguson, I think, is on the call too. I did a course with her once. I think she calls it it's like the strengthening you do to avoid getting injured in the first place. So it's prehab, she calls it, instead of rehab. And all of those things I try to keep consistent. And then even the technique in the water, I do all these boring drills, and I'm quite conscious about making sure that I'm trying to swim efficiently and nicely, both so that I can be efficient, but also so that I don't get injured. And it's a bit of a pain. And sometimes I don't do those drills too much, but then I see my stroke start to deteriorate and then I need to go back and do it. So it's definitely a chunk of hard work, but it pays off. Touch wood, I've never had any bad swimming injuries and hoping to keep that way.
Brilliant. Yes, that's always great to stay away from those. Um, I think there's something really interesting about how the next goal takes shape. How do you decide what your next swim challenge will be? With so many exciting options out there, what helps you to narrow it down and choose the one that's right for you?
A really good question. Actually, at the moment, I'm deep in this training, and I'm at the stage where I think I'm never going to swim again because I'm definitely going to quit after this. But give it a week or two after the next swim, and I'll be wondering and thinking what next to do. And we're so spoilt in Cape Town and in Africa with so many swims to choose from. So I follow what other swimmers are doing. I speak to people. I get that little bit of interest when I hear somebody's done an interesting swim. Um, yeah, and I guess you start to find out what you like. I don't particularly like swimming in very warm water, and I'm not a big fan of fresh water. So I go for the colder swims and the salty open water ocean swims. But there's something out there for everything. Yeah, and we're spoilt. We don't have to travel overseas to do big international swims. There's lots of options here and even new routes that have never been swum before. Yeah, the big international swims, they tend to be a bit of a negotiation with my husband, actually. It's obviously a big time and financial commitment. So I once used up all my credits training for the English Channel and then had to fund a surf trip for him to go away to recover after he put up with my training so much. So definitely a bit of a negotiation before committing to a big international swim. But there's really no reason to have to travel so far overseas when we've got amazing swims locally. Yeah, I would just say to people, if you see a swim that looks interesting, speak to people, do some research, and hopefully it plants the seed and gives you a nice, interesting goal to do.
Brilliant. And how did you decide to do the North Channel? How did that come pop up on your radar?
So it's actually linked to what you said about swimming community and the importance of having people around you doing it. So my friend Troy Mayers, a lot of people on the call will know, he decided he was going to do the North Channel. So I decided, okay, well, I'll train and I'll do it in the same season as him, and we'll be in the same boat. he has subsequently moved his swim to next year, so I'm still grumpy at him for leaving me to train for it on my own this year, but I'll be following him swim next year. Yeah, but for me, the North Channel is also quite special because I used to live in Scotland. So I'll be swimming from Ireland to Scotland most likely. So it feels a little bit like swimming across False Bay and finishing at Miller's Point. It feels like you're going in the direction of home. It's a part of the world
Yes,
that I really like, and it's really beautiful out there. So it's going to be an adventure.
brilliant. Well, we all wish you good luck for that, and we'll definitely be rooting for you. I think I don't have any more questions from my side. I'm going to move on to some questions that have come up in the chat. Thank you so much to those who have asked some questions in the chat. Um, I think some of the questions we have already answered. One question that came up is what moves you to do a specific swim more than once? For instance, Robben Island, what makes you want to do 10 singles?
That's a good question. Yeah, Robben Island. I can actually see Robben Island from my office. So sometimes when I'm having a rough week at work, I look out and I actually see the boats going out from Oceana Power Boat Club. And then I get FOMO. So then I book a Robben Island swim so I don't feel left out. But it's nice that Robben Island is accessible and there's opportunity to swim that swim all year round actually. I think it used to be limited to certain seasons, but now you see swimmers going all year round and getting great support and being out there on the water. So that's become a kind of staple. The other one that I've done twice is I've done False Bay twice. I did it one way, and then everybody told me that I'd done it the easy way, so I decided to do it the other way around as well to see if it really is harder. The answer is yes, it is harder the other day, or it definitely was on the day that I went, but at least I can compare both directions now.
Brilliant. That's a yeah, good answer to have. Um, then another question, of all the swims you have done, what has been the most enjoyable and why?
Wow, that's a difficult one to answer. I think most of the swims have got a really enjoyable part. They're definitely not enjoyable all the time or all the way. There's always a tough part or a moment when you doubting whether you made the right decision or whether you can tough it out and finish the swim. But in general, most swims I go through a patch when I'm just really happy and really grateful and I feel comfortable in the water. Um, of the big swims that I've done, I really enjoyed the Manhattan swim around Manhattan Island. It was just a really different swim. It doesn't feel like you're swimming across a big ocean like some of the other swims that I've done. And all the time the landscape is changing and you swim underneath 20 bridges, hence the name.
Mhm.
So it was a really different swim. It's not the kind of swim where you can get into a rhythm and just swim and pass the time because there's stuff happening around you all the time. But it was, yeah, really entertaining and nice sightseeing swim.
Hey, great. Thank you. Another question that was posted is not all open water swims are calm and easy as they are in the pool. Have you experienced very rough conditions, which made you think that the conditions are too dangerous and could endanger your life?
So I've never felt uncomfortable or unsafe. If the conditions were really bad, I wouldn't swim off the beach. I wouldn't swim in a situation that I didn't feel safe in. I've had a couple of swims when I've been out with boat support, when there've been pretty gnarly conditions. Um, but in that situation, I always trust that the boat crew know what they're doing, and if they have any concern about safety, they're going to tell me, okay, this is not sensible anymore, and they're going to take me out of that situation. I actually think it's quite a lot of fun to swim in those really crazy conditions when you feel safe. Obviously, it would feel terrible if you were out there on your own, but when you know there's a boat there and they're watching you, it's a bit like riding a roller coaster, and you
Mhm.
just get on and swim and get washed by waves and taken all over the place. It's quite good fun. So I actually quite like those big sea conditions,
Mm.
obviously with the right safety setup in mind.
Of course, yes. Okay, great. Another question from Sarah Ferguson. What inspires or motivates you to do these swims and dig deep when it is hard? I.e., what is your why?
So it's changed over time. Actually, I think in the beginning of my swimming journey, I was just really curious to see what was possible. And I would see other people doing swims and I would think, I wonder if I could do that. And then I would train and test to see whether it was possible for me to complete that swim. So that was definitely an important part of kind of exploring what I was capable of. More recently, I've started to think it's more about experiencing places and different environments that you get to go to when you swim. Sometimes, like I was in the middle of False Bay on a swim recently, and I just saw the sun coming up over the mountains, and I just thought, wow, this is an amazing experience and something that not many people get to see. And it's those moments of being in this like
Mm.
wild environment in the middle of the ocean, and just experiencing what it feels like to be in that space, which I really look forward to now. But it changes all the time. Sometimes I've done swims for charity. Actually, my first Robben Island was a charity swim and did a very big relay swim with a group of friends recently for charity. So kind of changes over time and changes according to the swim. But I do think it's important to know why you're doing something like this, because otherwise, if you don't have a clear motivation and a reason for being there, there's just no way that you're going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and get back to the pool and keep going when it gets tough. So that
Mm.
motivation is really important to have and know what it's for.
Mm. Mm. I think the mental preparation is a big deal, and I also there's few more questions about the mental preparation. How do you manage your mind on very long swims? And another question is, what do you think about while swimming?
I get that question often. Um, Most often I think about food. Actually, I spend a lot of time thinking if I could eat anything in the world, what would it be? And it's always mangoes and coconuts. But yeah, that's aside. That's definitely part of my mental strategy is to waste a lot of time thinking about food. Um, yeah, I think the first few big swims I did, I didn't really have a mental strategy. I just kind of went out there and I spend time worrying that I'm not strong enough or am I going to make it? And a lot of time just thinking about nothing, almost kind of zoning out. But what I'm doing now is I'm trying to be a bit more intentional about if my mind starts to go down a route of doubting myself, steer it back into a better direction, and just having things to think about. So things that are important to me, things that I know will help me, almost visualizations and things that I can call upon as tools to keep my mind busy. And then I'm sure just go into a space and think about nothing for a while. It's amazing how time can just slip by and you don't even realize how long you've been swimming for.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes the mind wanders also or also doesn't. Um, I think we've got one or two more questions. What was the most useful technical intervention you made in your stroke to be able to do long distance in the open water?
I think the most useful thing was actually doing a video analysis of my swim so that I could see what my body was doing. Because actually, my hands were doing weird things and my fingers were poking at strange directions and things. And once you see it on a video, first of all, you realize how ridiculous you look. But secondly, then you can start to change that and make changes that are going to make you more efficient and less prone to injuries. So once I could see on a video what was going on, then I worked with a coach. He advised me on how to make sure my entry into the water with my hand was correct and help me to try and make sure that I'm pulling through the water efficiently. I don't always get it right. I've been looking at some of that technique stuff again recently, and I've realized bad habits have come back, and I need to just take a check on those. But definitely having a video, preferably from multiple different angles, it really shows you what's going on, and sometimes it's not what you would expect at all.
Hmm. And would you recommend that for anybody who swims, or would you say there's a certain distance where you would say, okay, anybody who does over 10 or over 20 kilometers should do that?
Yeah, I think if you want to swim faster or you're starting to swim further, or if you've got particular niggles, like if some people I know struggle with certain injuries that they struggle to get rid of, then that would be a good indicator to take a look and see what's happening. And it doesn't have to be with a fancy swim coach. The guy I went to has got a special pool which has got lots of cameras, and you swim against one of those flow machines.
Mhm.
But it could also be a swim coach with a GoPro walking alongside you at the pool. So there's quite a few of the local coaches in Cape Town who are able to watch you swim in a tidal pool or watch you swim in a in a in a gym or something, and just give you some tips and advice and things on how to improve your stroke. It's definitely worth putting the effort in, particularly if you want to swim longer swims. So training for a Robben Island or anything longer, you want to make sure that you not doing anything crazy bad with your arms, otherwise you might get injured.
Okay. So we have one last question. Um, what makes swimming special to you versus other sports?
Definitely the people. Um, yeah, the swimming community. I'm proudly wearing my CLDSA hoodie today because I'm so proud of the work that you all do for the swimming community. I just love the fact that you get people swimming in the open water who are from all walks of life. There's a lot less ego than there are in other sports. Um, and just really nice people who've become lifelong friends, interesting people, interesting places to travel. And for me, if I'm not in the water, you'll find me on the mountain. So any kind of wild space is my jam. So being in the ocean and getting to experience our beautiful kelp forests and all these amazing places that we have to swim is, yeah, I think it's a really special place that we live in, really special community, and just a nice community to grow and experience swimming alongside. It's like having a swimming family.
It is. The community is great. That's also what I really enjoy about the swimming community. Thank you. Then, any other questions that we didn't get to, I'm sure we will have a look at it again, and we'll get in touch, or we might post those on social media. So if you have any other questions for Kat, please feel free to still post those into the group or into the chat. Um, then I would like to take a moment to thank you, Kat, for joining us today and sharing your strategies and tips with all of us. This is extremely inspirational and energizing to listen to you. And I'm sure many people have gotten a lot out of this talk this evening. And then I would also like to thank the audience. as well, and for asking all these great questions. And then also special thanks to Monene Murray, our producer of the Cold Water Capers, who has been organizing everything behind the scenes. So thank you very much for that. And thank you, everybody, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.